Shalom. First, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kapadash. Let's get into it with Isaiah chapter 2, verse 12. It says, the title, it says, a day of reckoning coming. Yeah, that day of reckoning is coming. And ultimately, it's the day of when the thermonuclear ICBM missiles are going to be set off and detonated. That's the day of reckoning. That's what this is ultimately talking about. You know, when the earth is pelted with thermonuclear ICBM missiles, man. That's going to be the great cleansing agent, the great equalizer, man. To put the world in its place. You know, it don't matter whether you believe what I'm saying, or you say, oh, he keeps saying the same thing over and over and over and over. Yeah, that's true, but eventually it has to come to pass, though. That's what small-minded people don't understand, man. Especially Jake, the so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans. You don't believe nothing sneaking to it actually hits you. It's okay, because it's going to really hit you here very soon, man. You're going to experience what it is to be barbecued alive, standing on your feet. You know, I don't have the number that's going to be left for the thermonuclear missiles, but it's some Jakes in America who are actually going to be, actually nuked, man. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is saving you for the nuclear destruction here in Babylon, for you to partake in the lake of fire. That's some real deep down hatred for you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. If the Most High don't have mercy on you and take you out during the riots, the race wars, the famine, martial law, Jacob's trouble, and he just leave you for the nukes, man, you was wicked as hell, man, in your previous life. But let's get some precepts, man. This is Isaiah 2 and verse 12. It says, for the day of Yahweh, a host of armies shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty. Yeah, all you proud people, you proud women, you proud Jakes, and proudful as Esau, man, the so-called white man. You're so proud, but your pride is going to be knocked off their face, man. You're going to have a paleness. You're going to be screaming like bitches, all of y'all, when you see those thermonuclear missiles piercing the clouds, man, and you hear those nukes getting ready, you hear them incoming, man, or you hear the warning fans, 30 minutes to detonation, 30 minutes to impact. You're not going to be proud no more. You're not going to be riding around in your BMWs, your Benzes, your Bentleys, or your Chargers or your Hellcats, thinking you're on top of the world. All your exotic cars. You're going to, you're going to shit a brick, It says, and upon everyone that is lifted up, and he shall be brought low. Yeah, these women, got their head in the air, and including the so-called black woman. Your head's gonna be matter of fact, it ain't gonna be low. You're just gonna be in ultimate shock, man, and pure terror. You're gonna be so terrified knowing that your death is imminent, man. Like your death is just like 10 minutes, 3 minutes away. You're gonna be pissing, screaming, and hollering and shitting all over yourself, man. Standing there screaming trying to stop it. You thinking the harder you scream that you're gonna stop the destruction, but it's not gonna happen. Verse 13, and upon all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan, and upon all the high mountains, the governments, and upon all the hills, the smaller governments that are lifted up. Yeah, because, start with Esau, Edom. Start with Esau, Edom, Ishmael, and Moab. They are very lifted up, man. They the top ruling heathens right now, man. And Ammon, they have the biggest economies, or if they don't have the biggest economies, they have the wealth. Speaking primarily of Ishmael, the so-called Arabs, they are going to, they're going to be brought down low. The government's going to be brought down low, because once America gets hit and get nuked, and various other places, and them so-called Jays, the Amalekites, they're going to be, brought down low. They're going to know that they're no longer the people, that they weren't the people all along. They're going to be brought down low, and we're going to go back into that land. Once it's going to get hit with nukes too. So it's going to be a great humbling experience for them. It says, verse 15, and upon every high tower, and upon every fenced wall. Verse 16, and upon all the ships of Tarshish, and upon all pleasant pictures. Verse 17, and the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of man shall be made low, and Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. Yeah, because you're gonna realize that, you're nothing but a mere mortal human, man. And Esau is gonna realize that he's nothing but a man, that he can't stop the destruction. He can't turn back the wrath of Yahweh by Shemal Rashah. So the Most High Yahweh alone is going to be exalted in that day. Because you're going to sit back for the, people in other lands that don't get demolished by the nukes. They're going to know there's nothing but a great power that could have allowed this to happen or done this. Verse 18, and the idols he shall utterly abolish. Yeah, because all the idols are going to come crumbling, because it's going to be one big earthquake throughout the earth. And the big Buddha statue is going to come down. That Jesus statue is going to come down in South America. Christ the Redeemer, that's going to come down. And any and every idol far in between is going to come crumbling down, man. And only the power of the Hebrew Israelites will be remaining. Yahweh is his name, and he's the only one going to be exalted. Verse 19, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks. He's talking about the elite, the wicked elite, the Edomites, and into the caves of the earth, for fear of Yahweh, and for the glory of his majesty. And he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. Yeah, because they think they're going to be in those bunkers, underground bunkers, or the bunkers under the ocean. And they think that's going to deliver them from the wrath of Yahweh by Shemal Rashah. But they just don't know. The elect, the 144,000, is going to come dig their asses out of there for Yahweh by Shemal Rashah. Will they be in those space stations, the underwater bunkers, underwater caves, underwater military bases, or the deep underground bunkers all over the world, all over the planet? We're going to come and get y'all that, Lord willing, I'm of that number. We're going to come and cut y'all ass up out of there, man. We're going to pull you out of there. So you can report for slavery, man. You're not going to escape, the rulership of Yahweh Shah, man. He's set up to be the king of the earth, And under him would be, David, Dawadah or Dawada. He's going to be, Yahweh Shah's right-hand man, and they're going to establish Yahweh Shah is going to establish righteousness on the earth, and wickedness will be done away with, man. It's going to be stamped out. Now, whether the other nations, the heathens, they're still going to sin, but their ass is going to get whipped and going to get judged, man, or get put to death according to the law. But as far as Israel going to have a moment, once we come out them chariots, Lord willing, after that moment, and come down and set the, set order right, and you don't have a choice, man. You're going to get down with Yahweh Shah, or you going to lay down, man. And for the ones that lay down, we're going to catch you in the kingdom. You're going to be recycled into the kingdom. And for the ones who get down with them, hey, man, welcome to the fold, man. Welcome to the fold. Yeah, it says, where he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. And like I said, the earth is going to be, to and fro like a drunkard, man. The whole earth is going to quake. There's nothing that can be done to stop this earthquake that's coming. From the thermonuclear missiles. It's going to knock it off the axis pretty much, man. Tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, mudslides, avalanches, things of that sort. Rocks falling, explosions. All that's going to take place here on the earth, and everybody around the earth is going to be shaking to their core, man. The earth opening up, swallowing people up. So hey, man, ain't nothing but beautiful times coming, man. It's gonna, you're gonna know that Yahweh, the Most High, was, fully hands-on with this destruction, man. Verse 20, in that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats. Let's get that in the NLT. It says, on that day of judgment, they will abandon the gold and silver idols they made for themselves to worship. They will leave the gods to the rodents and the bats. Yeah, they're going to be doing all that praying to these idols, and they're not going to be answering them. They're not going to have any power to stop the destruction. Once you see your idol on the floor in 1,000 pieces, you're going to know right then, that you've been worshiping the wrong power the whole time. Verse 21, to go into the clefts of the rocks, the Edomites, and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of Yahweh, and for the glory of his majesty, he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. Just letting you know, man, there's going to be a whole lot of rocking and rolling and shaking going on, man. The earth trembling, tremors, earthquakes, things of that sort. And they think these mountains, the Edomites, the elite, think, and these government officials think they're going to be able to hide in these mountains, man. They think they're going to be able to go and find refuge in the caves like they used to when they got sentenced to Mount Seir, when they got sentenced to, Mount Petra, man. But that ain't the case, man. Verse 22, cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, for wherein is he accounted for? Look at that in NLT. It says, don't put your trust in mere humans. They are frail as breath. What good are they? And the answer, they ain't good for nothing, man. When it comes to the Most High, you can't stand against the power and the majesty and the glory of Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, man. You just can't do it, bro. You're going to realize that man cannot save you in that day. You know, once those nukes are off, you know, and the earth is shaking and quaking, and there's no man on the planet gonna be able to bail you out. They're gonna be scrambling just like your ass, trying to get safety, trying to stay alive. You know, for all of you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans who are stuck on the planet when that's happening, hey, you just gotta ride it out, man. You just have to ride it out, and wait to the elect come out of wait for the 144,000 come out of those chariots, come out of that chariot, come out of the fathership with Yahweh, you know, come out of that cloud in order to set things straight, man. But yeah, that day of reckoning is getting closer and closer. And hey, the time has been passed for you niggas to get on board with Yahweh Shai, you know? So either you could you know, still play around with this, you know, still live it up in Babylon like it's all good, like nothing, everything is just gonna get back to normal. But things are not gonna get back to normal. Things are about to turn up for you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, man, and the whole world. You know, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out with that. Before I get out of here, I'm gonna give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, Shalom.